There we go. Okay, everybody, welcome to session 9 of Seminole Patchwork with Paper. It's pretty windy and stormy out here. Hopefully we won't lose internet. I'm really excited about showing you today's pattern with the chains. But I just want to sort of, we've been talking about the Seminoles through history and currently. There we go. I just sort of want to get sort of like set up for next week. There is a link, and there will be a link with the video, sort of talking about a little bit of the transition. You remember that they were like basically hunted. They wanted to exterminate them. What a horrible word. Mostly because of slavery. They had to go. They wanted their land, but they couldn't put it on a reservation in Florida because slaves would find safe haven with them. So that's why they had to like move them out to far, far away. The people that ended up staying were, you can imagine, they were ravaged by diseases that the Europeans came, by the wars, by being displaced, but they managed and they came through. And I've talked a lot about how incredibly resourceful and intelligent these people are. I mean, and that's something you read about when I read about them. When people come in contact with the Seminoles, they don't expect them to be such intelligent people. But if you look at what they've been through and how they've thrived at this point, that there could be no other explanation. So after slavery was abolished, they were no longer hunted, they were marginalized, but they lived in the Everglades. They were able to hunt, and they were able and survive and live. The Great Depression came. I don't know how affected they were by that because they had their own economy. And then FDR came and did the Indian IRA is the Indian Reparation Act, maybe? I can't remember actually, but it was frankly the FDR's New Deal for the Indians. And it was for all the Indians. But in the Seminole case, it was sort of interesting because they wanted to help the Indians, but of course the Indians needed to be would need help if they could help them. And the Seminoles were doing pretty well. They were in these camps that they were able to get tourist money, and they were living their life. So they actually had to like make them do worse so they could help them. And so big push to close down these places where they were able to get tourist dollars, put them into reservations, get them into reservations where now the government was going to help them be independent. And it's just a mind-boggling to think that after all they've been through, now they're going to need the government help to be independent. But anyhow, what I want to leave you with, and then we'll get to the rest of the story next week. What I want to leave you with is think about people who have had such a hard time for so long, who have persevered and persevered well and creatively and done amazing things. And now they're getting help. So think about what the next chapter of that story might be. And like I said, read the link in next week before we get to that I put in for the prep for next week. Okay. So that's that. Let's get to work. And I'll switch my camera. I'm going to try to switch my camera. There it goes. Nope. Did that again last week. There we go. Okay. Let's take this out. I did this in 3 different sizes, just sort of to show something. Also, I'm very inspired by Sarah Barton, who keeps using patterns in hers, although she's much better at picking out the right patterns to use for hers. But I thought it was fun to see this in 3 different scales. When we did these, if you remember, the major numbers that were used were let's see, 9, 3, and 6. And so that's really easy to divide each one of those by 3 and get them to be 4, would it be 4, 3 and 1, 3 and 1. And then if I doubled that, I could get double those numbers. I can get it for these, and I'll do that. I'll show that to you later. But let's just get to work cutting these. The part that's going to be a square on these, because usually there's one part of the band that is a square. The part that's going to be on the square on these is the 3. So these are going to be cut into thirds. I've got my 2 pieces. And why don't we just start off with just in the just because of time. Let's just make let's see. Let's make 6 bands of each one of these. And oh, I put this on the wrong paper. Well, I'll figure that out. So so we'll have to do, so I'll do 6 bands and 6 strips of each one, and they're each going to be 3 units wide. Okay? Is that right for everybody? Good with that?
Yes.
Of course, if you're done before than I am, just keep making more strips 3 units wide. Okay. If you're not finished yet, why don't you just look up anyway, and we'll get there. You'll catch up. What I want you to do is, my son is calling. I have to decline it. There we go. Sorry, son. What I want you to do is I want you to be very organized with this. This will drive you crazy if you're not organized. And so what I mean by be organized is make sure everything that is the same is together and lined up the same. And we're going to take a look at these and notice something about them that will make it easier. This one really drove me crazy, and you really have to focus on it when you're doing it. You really have to be completely like there. Okay. So what I want you to notice about these is that you've got, they each have a long piece, and there's two little squares above it or below it if you're holding it this way, right? So I want you to be very aware of these two little squares and the long piece. The other thing I want you to be aware of is that as we're putting them down, and they're going to be put down at 45-degree angles, there's a pattern. Thank goodness there's a pattern. And what the pattern is the way we're going to be starting it is that you'll be using two of the same, and then two of the same of the other kind, and then go back and forth like that. We'll start with the two little squares on the bottom, and then the other one will bring it up, and the two little squares will be on top. And they'll go together. Let's see, how will they go together? Right, they'll go together so that there's, you see how the long pieces are right next to each other. Okay, so does everybody see that? One of the things that I look for in this is my background color. The chartreuse is the background color. Those are always lined up together. You can see they're always lined up. The two little squares are always lined up together. So how this is going to be, what I recommend that you do is set them up so that they're already right side up and then upside down to each other. Okay, so you see it's going up and down. Do that with both. And let's see, why should I do this one? We like this. So basically, we're setting them up the same, with the tall one with the two little squares on the bottom. And here we go. And there we go. So how's everybody feeling about this so far? Just setting them up so they're going up and down like this. So there's that thing going on. Okay. I could sort of start in the middle with this, but I think I'll start on the side. And I could be using the number 3 paper or the master paper. Does anybody have any preference about which one I use? Nope. Okay, I'm going to use the master paper then. I've got to do the 45-degree angle. And I always like to find a place where where a vertex, like a common, like this is going to be lined up right to one of my lines, even though one of my horizontal lines, even though I'm not really worried about the horizontal. I'm more concerned with making sure that I've got that 45-degree angle up and down. Okay, so this is how it'll go. I already have these lined up to the way I need them to be. And remember I said that you make sure that these two blue parts line up right there at the corner. And I'm going to take it from this side. And here's a long one. And you see how I've got the dark purple here, and it's lined up to make the top of this this rotated square the way it's lined up here. So that clues me in on exactly where this next one should go. Okay. And now I've got this one is already set up just so in the right way. And again, I'm going to make sure that the long colors, the color with the long piece matches up right at this vertex with the other one. And you see that already? You can start seeing the chain show up. Which, come on, isn't this so cool? I mean, unbelievable that these things can all of a sudden make these chains. As usual, I'm not thrilled with my color choice. I'll probably go back with this purple and make it a little bit darker here. But again, I think it's clear. So why don't we go ahead and start gluing those down. If anybody has any questions, please say so. I think I could pretty much stop the recording now, because basically what I'm just going to keep doing is now I could look at this blue one, and I know that I'm making the top of that rotated square, right? And then I'm thinking about this one, the vertexes. And I hope you see the really good reason why you want to have these set up. You don't want to constantly be flipping them around. But if you have flipped them around, you know, your cat comes in and messes everything up. Just remember to look for these two inner pieces that are right on top of each other. Okay? Does anybody have any questions that it would be good to have on the recording? So otherwise I'm turning the recording off. Okay. Good. But before I turn it out, maybe I'll just show you. I'll put on the recording what we're doing next week, which will be our last week, which is this one, which is pretty amazing. But anyhow, enough of that. And nope, I didn't mean to do that. Cancel. I'm going to end recording.